Welcome to Shut Up and Say Something. I am your host and creator of the show, Deedre Daniel. This podcast is all about how to live a more fascinating life. And we're learning how to do that one interesting conversation at a time. We try to stay away from discussing politics, religion, and the ad nauseum topic du jour, but anything else is fair game. And today I'm speaking with Nate Fleming. He is a stand-up comedian and founder of Swan City Improv, which is a local comedy club here in Lakeland, Florida. And today we're going to talk about all things funny and how we can incorporate more humor in our personal and professional lives. So welcome, Nate.
Thank you for welcoming me. I feel welcome.
Oh, that's good. I met Nate several years ago because over the span of 2 weeks, I just have these random conversations with different people and they would suddenly talk about Nate Fleming. I'm like, who the heck is this Nate guy? He just keeps coming up in conversations. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee? Whatever. I feel like I need to meet you. And he said, sure. And so we met up at the local library at this coffee shop called Black and Brew. And I thought I'd be there for maybe an hour. And we lost track of time. We just kept talking and talking and talking about all the things you probably shouldn't talk about when you meet someone for the first time. And we probably would have hung out after that. But then COVID showed up and we were all scrambling to make it work. And we did a couple of projects together, through Zoom. Everyone had moved online. But other than that, we all sort of went our separate ways. And here we are in Lakeland, Florida, both calling from separate locations virtually still. And it has nothing to do with COVID. We're just very busy. Yeah.
And I hate leaving my house. I just don't like it. It's a nice, calm dungeon I've created.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to some people who said, I don't like getting dressed anymore,
Yep.
It's like, do I really have to get dressed? Do I really have to interact with people? It's funny. It's made a lot of us, I think, a little bit more socially inept. But you want to get out there and do more stand-up, right?
Yes, I'm done sitting around at home. I think I've done enough of it. And I want to get out, but only for stand-up. I only want to get out, tell some jokes on stage, and then go right back into my comfortable little hole.
I think that's most comedians anyway, right?
Yeah. I got half the battle done, the whole part. Now I got to work on that stand-up part.
What led you to comedy?
From a young age, realizing that if I say something and people laugh, that feels really good for both me and that person who's laughing. And if I can figure out how to do that a lot, then I can just keep people laughing. I really enjoy figuring out the buttons to push to make people laugh. But I didn't know stand-up comedy was a career until I read a Muppets book that had Fozzie Bear in it, in which he pursued his career of a stand-up comedian. And I read that book a lot. And that is what convinced me that I could be a comedian, is reading a book about a Muppet who was a comedian.
Waka waka.
Yes.
So now you trained at Second City, right? In Chicago.
I did. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know what that is. I mean, people from Chicago clearly know what Second City is. And, there's other people obviously in the comedy world know what it is. But if someone from other countries or even other parts of America might not know. So if you want to expand on that.
Second City is like the comedy school to go to. For you pick where you want to go to a college because it has a really high quality engineering program or science program. Well, Second City is that for comedians. It's not accredited. It's not a college, but it is like the school to go learn from the best of the best in comedy. A lot of your SNL alums are from Second City, people that you see in movies and TVs. They trained at Second City. That's where you learn to write sketches, utilize improvisational comedy to create sketched out scenes. So I studied there for a little over a year. I went there for their conservatory program. Make it sound official.
And then you also did some work in Richmond, right?
I did at Richmond Comedy Sports. That's where I first began improv comedy, was at the Richmond Comedy Sports, which Comedy Sports is a very large organization. They have theaters all over the globe still. But yeah, they have a style where the shows that you see are people who are making it all up on the spot. And it is done in a way where it's like a sporting event where you've got two teams going head to head against each other. The whole show starts with the national anthem. You sing the national anthem and you wear baseball jerseys and you compete back and forth.
Do you remember your first routine or perhaps your first joke on stage that just killed?
So the addiction happened, actually, I was 8 years old. It was a Star Search at my school. So not the Star Search, but my school did a talent show called Star Search. and I dressed in oversized cowboy boots and oversized cowboy vest. I came out on stage with a Johnny Bravo mirror, like I was fixing my hair, and did a 5-minute set of jokes that I sourced from like joke books that had been given to me. So I went through and found the ones that I thought were the best. I'd test them at dinner. And the one joke that I remember killing was the joke that I ended on. I always read that you have to start with your second best joke and end with your best joke. And the best joke was a joke story about me horseback riding. And I actually used that for almost 10 years as my closer, every single show that I did.
And does it kill every time?
Every single time it kills. I don't know if it does as much anymore. It is a weirdly stuck in time joke, but it is absolutely, in my opinion, a killer.
Are you willing to share your story with us now, or is this a secret for stage only?
I will share it. It is a little heavy, so just be ready for that.
Heavy as in long, or just heavy as in sad?
It's very sad. It is a very sad story.
I don't want to hear a sad story.
You don't have a choice. I've begun it.
Shoot. Okay.
I was horseback riding because in Virginia, that's a thing you do. Like you learn how to ride a horse. I'm riding a horse. Everything's going fine until the horse starts bucking and then bucking out of control. And I get thrown off and my foot gets caught in the stirrup.
Oh, no.
And I'm dangling from the side of this horse with my head bouncing closer and closer to the ground. And just as I'm losing consciousness, the Walmart manager comes over and unplugs it. See? Every time.
That's good. Every time. Do you ever get on those now? Do you ever ride any of those as an adult?
I don't know where they are. I've not seen them. I can't remember the last time I saw like a quarter machine that you ride other than a mall. And I don't go to malls.
I heard malls are coming back, man.
Who said that? It must be Big Mall. Big Mall's lying to you.
Who influenced your point of view today besides Fozzie Bear?
Besides Fozzie Bear. Man, that's like a plethora of people I've met along the way. Because I most of my stand-up used to be very Christian-oriented stand-up, and that was the angle I would approach it from, is everything has to be right by God before I tell these jokes. But I used to be a very clean comedian. That's a better way of saying it. I used to be a very, very clean comedian and very buttoned up and tight, and I was focused on set-up punchline jokes. And I got to get a good setup and a good punchline. And then along the way throughout college and meeting people, I grew up and grew out of that and realized there is more to just the setup punchline comedy that can be found. There are comedians who are built for, I'm going to tell a one-liner, it's going to kill, and that's my whole act. But I started navigating towards the comedians who told stories like Mike Birbiglia, Richard Pryor, George Carlin. Not Mike Birbiglia, but George Carlin and Richard Pryor both had the same trajectory where they started out as a quote-unquote hacky comedian, where I'm telling comedy for comedy's sake, and then went away for a little while. They had their little experience with whatever it was that changed them. And then when they came back, they were comedians that were like, I have something that I think is important to tell, and this is a different point of view of the world. It just so happens that it's funny.
I see.
So like, I think they were absolutely focused on the comedy of it because that's the thing. Like, it has to be funny, but it definitely felt more like, hey, I have something to talk about. It just so happens it's extremely hilarious. So that is where the other end of my pendulum is swinging to. So I started off very buttoned up tight. Comedy has to be good, pure, and great. And now I'm swinging over to, well, there's some things I want to say. I want to talk about the state of things or my thoughts and feelings and be a little bit more honest than 17 penguins walk into a bar type jokes, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's definitely an evolution, right? So why is laughter important?
At the basic level, scientifically, it just releases. It's a great release.
Yeah.
I found that people will laugh more at things that they're like, hey, that's funny, because I do that too. And it's like a communal experience of people all sitting next to each other like, oh, I thought I was the only one who did that. But that comedian's brave enough to say that they did it. And haha, that's funny. Situation.
The mission statement of my company is to help people think creatively, laugh, and build stronger bonds with others. And I find that people are not laughing enough in corporate America or just even in their personal lives. And granted, we've gone through a big period of stress. Even prior to that, I had developed my company and that mission statement because I felt like people weren't laughing enough. And it does. It makes people relax. It makes them bond. But how do we bring humor back into the office? Especially now, you have all these people actually going back to the office. A lot of them don't want to. And then
Yeah.
with your history of clean jokes, can you think of ways that they can bring some humor into the office that's not going to land them in HR, right?
Oh yeah, that I think the simplest way is like your classic jokes of the day. You remember how like back in the day we would always get emails, or we would sign up the email list, and it's like, hey, here's your daily cat photo, or here's your daily
Uh-huh.
this. I'm confident now. I don't have any evidence, but I'm confident that there's still something out there that can send you a daily joke, and most of the time it's probably going to be like not an inappropriate joke, but just like a bad joke. It's bad on purpose. So that's a great way of breaking the ice into comedy of like,
Mhm.
hey, I want you to know I'm a chill, fun guy, and then keeping a level of honesty, because that is where most of your comedy will come from, is honesty. Like, oh man, I had just the worst weekend, had to just build a shed the whole time. It may not seem like it's funny in your head, but it could be like someone's like, oh, haha, I also had a pretty bad weekend. So
Mhm.
finding those commonalities are great ways of doing it, as well as that stupid daily joke. Like they started making a whole bunch of clear coffins. Did you hear about that? I didn't believe
No.
him. It remains to be seen. Remains
Bad.
to be. Exactly. See?
Dad jokes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
dad
That is a
jokes. Yeah.
fantastic way.
Well, you said something though. I'm going to back up a little bit. You
Mhm.
said, people need to be honest. And I feel
Yes.
like people are not honest in general. They feel like they have to put up a little bit of a filter. Comedy is dangerous. Honesty is dangerous. And
Mhm.
we don't allow people to make mistakes. They might say what they're thinking, or perhaps their mouth doesn't catch up with what they're thinking and they say the wrong thing. And it has some people on pins and needles because they're just worried about offending people. So this is a two-part question here. How do we
Yeah.
embrace honesty and then also bounce back when we accidentally offend?
I think to embrace honesty, you got to give yourself that grace first, because you're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You're going to be on pins and needles with yourself for the rest of your life if you don't realize that there's just going to be a lot of times where you're going to mess it up and get it wrong, and be okay with yourself that you're going to get it wrong. And then whatever people's response to that is up to them. They might be very upset by it, very not upset by it. But I always believe if you're approaching something honestly from a position of wanting the best for whatever is about to come out of your mouth, I think
Mm-hmm.
you're in the clear. And that
You
also
mean
means you got to
measuring people's intentions is what
exactly.
it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, measuring people's intentions for sure. And there's no way to know where the intentions come from the outside looking in, but you
Mm-hmm.
yourself kind of have to evaluate like, hey, why am I making this joke? Like, do I think it's funny? But do I also think it could, like, there are jokes that can hurt people, and
Mm-hmm.
the goal is never to hurt people when making comedy. Hurting institutions, probably, like, that's the whole fighting the power of comedy for those comedians who are very social justice oriented,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to be as inoffensive as possible. But I've always believed if you're not setting out to offend someone, then you should be pretty good to go within reason.
Right. You teach improv classes to
Yeah.
adults and children. How do you teach them to trust themselves to be able to be confident in what they're thinking and to go with that idea?
Kids, I don't have to teach them to trust themselves. They already do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're good to go. They have nothing stopping them. But adults have been beaten down and told to be a certain way to be accepted,
Mm-hmm.
for however long, depending on how old they are. They've just been told, hey, don't do that, do this instead. Don't do that, do this instead. My goal for any adult, the first thing I try to do is get rid of that thing in the way that stops you from being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, I think we're all just larger children. We're just big old kids. And we have a lot of what life is supposed to be getting in the way of that.
Right.
And kids don't have a lot of that, what's getting in the way of what's life supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get rid of that, it's easy to be honest.
When did they become the beaten down adult?
5th grade. Go to any middle school, 5th
Mm-hmm.
through like 7th, 5th through 8th grade. That is the time where you get beaten down, because you're not quite close to an adult, and you're not really a kid anymore. So your expectations are pulling you apart in two different ways.
Uh-huh.
And you're acting out to your peers because you're in this weird in between phase. So you're getting beat down by the expectations of life, pulling you two different ways, and you're beating down those around you because you're being beaten down, which is why I think middle school is the worst time of life for anyone, period.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
When I was subbing for schools, If it said middle school, I'd delete the email and go about my business. Just wouldn't even. I will
No
not show up to
thanks.
work. I'm not going to middle school.
All right, so let's go back. How do you
Hmm.
teach these adults to let go of all that? That's a lot of baggage, and I would imagine some
Yeah,
of them might need real therapy. And you're not a trained therapist, but I'm
yeah.
sure there's a little bit of that in there. Where you know, have you ever had anyone cry on you?
I tried to build like a Vegas in the classroom where
Okay.
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So anything you say or do here, it stays here, and it's among other people who are trying to also like liberate the way that they think about how they approach things. So if
Hmm.
I can create this microcosm of a safe space for you to really shed all that stuff on you that's been holding you back, then everyone else will and also begin to feel as though they can be just as liberated as you as you're letting go of the things that have been holding you back.
In my card game, I teach people that there are no wrong answers,
Yep.
and that helps. But it takes them a while to warm up, and then I'm rewarding the most ridiculous and interesting and creative answers, which
Yeah.
are oftentimes, I mean, really wrong in a lot of ways. But that's okay. That's okay. Not there, no wrong answers here. And so I think that's part of improv, right? Where you're saying this is
Yeah.
safe. There are no wrong answers. I'm sure that's very freeing for a lot of people because we walk around our whole lives being told we're wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So you think the key to comedy is to let go of that?
Yeah, I think the key is a mixture of honesty and failure,
Hmm.
in like healthy doses of both. Because failure has produced some of the funniest moments in improv for me, where I've gotten something wrong that I was supposed to be doing a different way, but it came up some other way. And even in class settings, when someone fails in class, like it's hilarious. And teaching someone to recognize that we are not laughing at you, we are laughing at what was produced because of the failure that you just created.
Hmm.
Like you're creating something that hasn't been seen before because a lot of people before you have done exactly what was asked of them, but you
Hmm.
failed. You didn't do exactly what was asked of you, and you created something brand new that we found hilarious. And it's that cool creation of failure that we love. And in that moment when you do fail, that's when everyone kind of lets go of the facade of the character and
Hmm.
become their most honest, because it's like, well, I failed. This is what you get. Enjoy it.
Can you think of a big failure that you had that turned into something amazing?
On a consistent basis, it's accents. Just period. If I'm trying to do a French accent, and after a little while, that French accent's going to morph into a British accent, it's going to morph into a Jamaican accent, it's going to keep changing. So now this character that you were introduced to as a Frenchman is now a Midwestern mother of two. Like, how did I get there?
Mm.
I don't know. I'm the same character as before.
Hmm.
I can't, sometimes I just can't keep the accent. And it is always funny to recognize, like, well, I guess my character's German now, and continue on with the scene.
And you're doing that on stage in front of people?
Oh, frequently in front of a lot of people. I cannot hold the accent together anymore.
You've had a lot of jobs, like not outside of comedy, a
Yeah.
lot of jobs. What have
Yeah.
you learned from this string of jobs in your career?
Every single person is bullshitting their way through it all.
Really?
Period.
Okay, so to help the audience though, how about you give them 10 different jobs you've had? I know you've had more than that, but just like give like just and try to go on the spectrum of
Yeah.
different ones. Okay, so try to move
Yeah.
around, and then we'll go back to the commonality.
I was an associate producer for a reality television show in Ecuador. I had
Okay.
a Spanish crew and an English cast. I was a script acquisition supervisor for CBS Films, in which I read scripts and told them which ones to accept and which ones to decline. I was a website developer in which I built websites for small businesses. Oh, I was like a furniture putting together. There wasn't even an official title. I would put together business furniture for people who would buy an office and buy a whole bunch of furniture. I'd come in and build all that furniture, put it where it needs to go, and then move on to whatever office they had next. Oh, I was a videographer for a mega church. I was an animator turning Flash to HTML5 before Flash died. And I was also taking those animations that were medical animations and translating them into Spanish for a company.
All right.
What else? I was a server for a comedy club. That did not last long. I've been a tour guide where I would give tours in the city of Chicago. Oh, I built escape rooms in Chicago as well. So I was a game master building escape rooms in Chicago.
Did you create those, or did they tell you this is the map? You just need to put it all together like you did with the office furniture, or were you like creating the games?
It was a mixture. So some of the games, like, they thought that they would be really clever and people would get stumped, but then I would work with some people, create a whole new puzzle, put that in the room, and they had the overall design of, like, we want a White House room and like a spy room, and we would come in and paint it and build stuff and put it in for that, and then I ran those rooms after helping to build them. So I did create them. It was so much fun. I did help create them and add new puzzles, change up things that would break if we needed to, so on and so forth. What else?
All right, what other jobs have we had?
I was a Starbucks barista, and then got a commercial for Starbucks for their holiday drink. And then I was also in a commercial for Microsoft during the pandemic. And then that's when I started doing voiceover work for commercials during the pandemic as well.
Wow, that's a lot. And so these all paid the bills while you were working as a comedian, right? And you've been doing that since you said the age of 8. So how many years is that? 20 years? 30?
23, 30. Thank you. I love looking as old as I do. That's why I keep the beard, baby face without it. Yeah, like 28 years. 23 years, because that's how math works.
Yeah.
23 plus 8. I'm 31. Well, I'll be 31 in a month.
So is laughter the only measure of good comedy? Have you been in a situation where you tell a joke, no one laughs, so then you tell it again and again and again and again and again. You're like, I know this is funny. I just haven't found the right audience. Or do you eventually give up? I'm framing this for people doing anything. Like, at what point do you say, okay, maybe this can't be massaged any other way. Maybe I can't improve this situation any other way. Like, do you give up, or do you just keep going and keep telling that joke or changing it?
I was taught at Second City, one of my teachers, Rachel Mason, said, if you're doing comedy, the least you can do is be interesting. So as long as you're hitting that bar of being interesting, then you're good. And if you're interesting long enough, you'll be able to find where the comedy is. It's kind of like hiding behind that. And there have been plenty of jokes where it also depends on the audience for the night as well. So I'm going to remain interesting. My stories I'm going to have you on the edge of your seat because I'm telling good stories. What I want to do, though, is make you laugh every 15 seconds at something that I have to say to reference it. So I've got that baseline of interesting, and I plug in the comedy where it works. Sometimes there are jokes that they won't land because of the makeup of that specific audience. For just a random roll of the dice, this audience that night, they don't find it funny. Cool. But I could probably try the same joke again, a different region of the US. That audience is going to love it. So I don't usually get rid of jokes, but there are some that just don't work because they're just not funny. No matter how many times I repeat them or try it, they're not funny. And it could be I got to take out 2 words here, or I have to change this word to be a little bit more descriptive, and I have to tweak what is already interesting and has, in my opinion, comedic value to it, until I get at least one audience to laugh at it. And then it's good. Now I plug it in and keep trying to do it over and over again and let my brain write what needs to be written to fix it.
Okay. So it sounds like you don't give up. You just keep massaging it until, Okay.
I'll get rid of a joke after I'm bored with it.
So do you think having a sense of humor helps or hurts? Romantic relationships, professional relationships? What do you think?
I think having a sense of humor definitely helps, but you've also got to know when, like, time and place. You got to know time and place, or it will hurt. It is a wonderful gift, and it definitely helps with work and relationships. Big time. Just back and forth. There was a study, I think, that was done when women are like, I'm looking for someone funny. They're looking for someone to make them laugh. And when men are like, I'm looking for someone who appreciates comedy, they're looking for a woman who laughs at their jokes.
Yeah.
And that's the weird difference between the search for it. But I think a sense of humor is important because I think it shows intelligence. Like, if you can make jokes, then you're using language in a really cool way that isn't used that way, or you're approaching problems and situations from a different angle that people wouldn't normally notice. So I think humor definitely shows a very high sense of intelligence, and I'm a huge fan of intelligence in any of my relationships, platonic, romantic, any of them. So I think it super helps.
I read another study where they were, they talked about what you mentioned as far as what men and women were looking for. But in this other study, it was about how the reason why people look for a mate with a sense of humor is they are trying to measure intelligence. And that is a proxy for intelligence. And they know, especially nowadays, where most of the jobs you're not walking around with brute strength to accomplish, to make money. I mean, you have to be smart. You have to be able to figure things out. And so that is a proxy for intelligence. However, I found
I love that. However,
it goes back to knowing your audience, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a great sense of humor, or you think you have a great sense of humor, and then other people just don't get your jokes. They'll actually think you're dumb by what you said because they're not getting it. I mean, I clearly remember sometimes in corporate America, I would crack a joke and no one would get it. They thought I was being serious. And then they would just kind of shake their head, looking up from their spreadsheets like, oh, I can't believe she said that. And I'm like, that's funny. And the fact that you don't get it and you think what I just said is real, that's even funnier. I just wish there was a camera to capture this. I'm like, now I can't even laugh. I just have to suck it up, man.
I get that I have so many people that I meet and I'm loving it because I'm making these jokes. And a lot of times I make a joke, I don't believe what I'm saying, but I think it's funny. Like, so I'm going to say it because it's funny. I'm like, wow, that guy's a real jerk, isn't he? It's like, well, no, this is what I like, making jokes. Just can you step back a little? Don't take it so seriously.
Right. I mean, we have to be here all day. Let's at least laugh a little bit. Yeah. Many people are afraid to speak up. How do you get them comfortable to speak up? I mean, you mentioned before helping people trust themselves, but what other things do people learn in improv? You're teaching them, of course, comedy, but when they walk out of your building, what else have they learned?
There's 3 things that I try to instill in the first class every single time. The first thing is you're not here to be funny. So it is improv comedy, but at no point are we trying to be funny. I'll teach you that later. The first thing you need to do, don't you dare, in my class, don't you dare try to be funny. Second thing is you gotta agree with everything, no matter what it is. Just agree with it and add to it, boost it up a little bit. Give it a little spice, give it your own point of view. And the third thing is you're going to fail. So go ahead. You're going to fail. So go ahead and fail now, fail big, fail hard, and enjoy it every single time you do it. That's the only constant is you're going to get it wrong at some point. So once you get those 3 things in your head, ready to go, you can take anything on. You're not spending energy trying to be funny. And you realize that when you do that, the funny is going to find you. It will just happen. You will go through things as normal, and then you're like, oh, here's where a joke belongs, and there's a space for it. It just fits. But you have to go through this part where you're unsure if it's going to be funny till you get here. If you agree with everything, then you're an enthusiastic supporter of all those around you. Boom. That's super easy to get into a room. And if you're not worried about failing and how you're going to just be really bad at it, then you're going to do anything you want because it doesn't matter if you fail. It's part of it.
I think a lot of people are afraid of failure. That's why they won't try new things. So do you find that after someone takes your improv class, they're more open to trying other things outside in the real world?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of people, I've been teaching the classes for 3-ish years now, and I've had a lot of people who have gone through the class who have gone on to really push their businesses or their personal lives into areas they never thought was possible because they see the ability in themselves that is there and stronger than before to be able to do those things. And they're killing it right now. It's pretty awesome to see.
That's wonderful. I think that's something you should include in your marketing, actually.
I agree. And marketing is what I consistently fail at.
Maybe I can help you. Okay. So when someone goes through improv, you're telling them stop trying to be funny, embrace failure, because most of us are afraid of failure. So they go in, they fail, and they realize, oh, that wasn't that bad. I didn't die. I didn't break anything. I'm still here and I'm going to move forward. And that's a great lesson. I know in improv classes, granted, I haven't taken any from you. Clearly I need to do that in the near future, but there is that classic exercise of yes. And so whatever, I'm assuming you do those as well. Like, yes. And okay. In corporate America, people are often telling others, no, that's wrong. So when their idea comes up, it immediately gets shot down. So what would it be like in these meetings if everyone said, you threw out an idea and then everyone said, yeah. And then they just added to that. So do you go into corporate America at all and help with improv training?
I haven't done it in a while. Last time I did it was for a bunch of nuns who were school teachers at a Catholic school. That was super fun. And it was just teaching them all of these principles and ideas. And they're like, wow, improv really does help in just your everyday life. I did a lot of it in Chicago going in, and it's amazing to see how much people light up when they're like, I didn't even realize the possibility of what work could be like. Like, it doesn't have to be this stifling, stuffy, I'm typing, I'm not like a part of something. Instead, it is a collaborative together. We can do this. I agree with you. I support you. Let's do more creative things than we've been capable of doing before. So I love going to corporate places because they're not ready for it or expecting it.
Right. I feel like you have a Saturday Night Live sketch with just an improv class with a bunch of nuns. I just
It was,
really do.
they were hilarious. And I was like, are you allowed to say that? I don't know. Or is this what nuns are allowed to do? I don't get it. It was really fun.
I mean, it's cracking me up in my head just imagining some of the possibilities there. I mean, you definitely have a story in the works. Is there a formula or a way to approach a situation that you recommend for people? So, for instance, for me, anytime I'm in a situation that it just annoys me or upsets me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great story later. And I sort of pull myself out of it and I find the humor in the situation. But do you teach people ever how to be funny? I mean, you said that when they first take your class, you want them to stop trying to be funny and that like humor will find them. But is there any kind of formula that you help them with so that they can find something that's universally funny to others?
Yeah. Wordplay is something that I like, helping people grasp puns, things like that. Those
Okay.
are always like very safe, inoffensive baseline things, making puns, not double entendres, but puns. There's a difference between the two.
Right.
And I also teach people like a classic comedy rule is the rule of three. You do things in succession of once, twice, the third time you'll get a laugh. Once, twice, third time you'll get a laugh. So if you have something that even if they laugh a little bit the first time, they'll laugh more the second time and laugh a lot the third time. So always that 1-1-3, 1-1-3. Those are like two plug and play formulas to be able to do it. And the last one is just for people to hide behind a character, to be honest. So then it's not you. It's the character who believes this thing, but really it might be your feeling. So I'll play character sometimes and out loud, I'll just say, gosh, I am just so sick of how boring my life has been lately. That is me honestly saying it. But now I'm taking that same thought and idea and putting it into character and figuring out why this character believes this honestly. So I'm kind of merging the two. So being able to use honesty, that is the easiest way of being funny.
When I'm helping people overcome any kind of social anxiety so that they can get out there and network, I tell them to imagine their friend or that person that is really outgoing who just walks up and talks to anyone. I said, just get in their body right now. It's not even you. It's somebody else networking. That's who you're going to be right now. Just get in there. And if they reject you, they didn't reject you. They rejected that person you were pretending to be. It's not even you. So don't take it personally. And then they don't get rejected and they realize, oh, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Exactly.
So speaking of rejection, I'm sure you've bombed on stage. Yeah. How do you bounce back from that and say, I still want to be a comedian. I'm going to get back on stage?
There was a time where I said, look, I'm not going to prepare any material. I'm just going to get up on stage and do whatever happens. And I'm going to take that feeling and I'm going to thicken up my skin. And just when people aren't laughing, I need to accept that it's the pacing of my show might need to be tweaked. It's not that I'm not funny, or it could be the energy of my show has dipped. It's not that I'm not funny. I have to remember that being funny isn't well, this time you weren't, so you're not ever again. It's a practice that I've been doing for so long that I am funny. Just in this moment, there's something about the other aspects that makes my set good are lacking. So being able to separate that, because I always have to believe that I'm funny in order to do comedy. And that came from when I would just go to mics in Chicago without any material and purposefully try to bomb in front of an audience. I am not trying to give you what you want. And that helped gain the steel I needed in my brain to kind of fend off the thoughts of, ooh, they're not laughing, so you should stop. You're not good at this.
Yeah.
It's just it's the same that someone would do when they go to the gym to try to get stronger. So I just had to go to the mental gym of bad stand-up to try to get stronger.
Yeah. Well, I think with anything, people need to fail over and over and over again so that they can be stronger. I mean, you have to. And so many people don't even try because they don't want that sting. They don't want that pain. And so
Yeah.
then I think in the long run, they hurt even more because they never really lived because they didn't
Yep.
try. They didn't try something. So how do you psych yourself up before a show? What do you have a routine? Do you have music? Do you do 10 push-ups? What do you do?
I psych myself up to get off a stage. I only feel comfortable when I'm on stage. It's the
Wow.
weirdest thing. I've been on stage so often that I would rather be performing in front of people than to be off stage. If I could just constantly be on stage every single night, that would be the dream life for me. A lot of people psych themselves up to get up there because it's scary and you don't know what's going to happen. And me,
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be in that. It's scary. I don't know what it's going to happen. Where the stakes are imagined. The worst someone can say is, I want a refund for my ticket. And that isn't going to happen. You bought the ticket, you sat in the show, you got what you paid for. You just might not have liked it. Sorry. So there's like, on stage, it is the safest place ever. And if you can just listen to and pay attention and connect with the audience, you create something that will never, ever happen again. Period. It is in that moment, that one time that it works. So I psych myself up to be like, okay, well, I have to end the show because people have to go home to their lives. But I'm kind of like at the gate, ready to like go. I'm like, oh, 15. I have to wait 15 minutes to go out there. Come on, why don't I just do a little pre-show? So I'm very backwards when it comes to performing. I want to be there always.
So it sounds like you need to be psyched just to go to your day job.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So let's go back to everything you learned. I don't think we even covered that. So you went through all these different jobs you've had, and you said, and then most people are just BSing their way through life. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. No one knows what they're doing. There are people who are experts and they've studied it. Everyone is just making up what they're going to do for that day. We create this idea of, oh, I have a meeting. Well, did you really need to have that meeting? Like,
no.
Did you? Like, I worked with people who are like, yeah, I don't know. When we did the animations, it was a lot of, I don't know how this works because I don't know how it'll look when I translate Flash to HTML5. So they were creating technology for it to work. And it just so happened that it worked. So like majority of the people have no clue what they're doing. So they just BS their way through it to make sure that they can get a paycheck, period.
I feel like lately though, everything's just a little bit crappier. I don't know if it's because people have given up on pretending that they know what they're doing. And they're just, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't really care if you don't know what I'm doing. And just seems like there's mistakes everywhere. Have you noticed this at all?
Yes. The wizard has been revealed from behind the curtain. And that's what's happened these past few years is we all see the wizard. We all see that no one likes going to work. We just fake that we do. No one wants to get in a car, make a commute. No one likes commute. No one likes the word commute. Like, I'm doing this job for a paycheck to pay for the roof over my head and the food I eat. I'm not really doing it because I love it. And even if I am doing something because I love it, it'll reach a point where I'm doing it because I have to do it. And I don't have a choice because I need to keep making the paycheck and I can't do the thing I want to. So life has a way of like binding us to things no one really wants to do or be a part of.
Yeah. And you spend most of your waking hours working, it seems like, or thinking about work, or as to your point, transporting yourself to work. Yeah. So with all the different jobs you've had in your short life, it sounds to me like you've said, take this job and shove it and have walked away. Like, what were the best ways that you broke up with your job?
Oh, man. There was one where I gave it 2 weeks. And then after giving the 2 weeks, I said, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm gone. When I leave out this door, I'm not coming back. I have no reason to. And then I just didn't come back. Never had a problem because what are they going to do? Fire me? I've already quit.
Right.
That I think was my favorite one, was like realizing, why am I giving you a 2 weeks? I don't want to be here 2 more weeks for any reason. You don't want me here 2 more weeks. And if you had someone better, I'd have been gone immediately. You wouldn't have given me a 2-week
That's right.
window. Yeah. So then I'm just out. I'm gone. I've definitely ghosted employers before where I just disappeared and I was like, I'm not going in. Not healthy, not okay. But I've definitely done it. I took a work from home job. I just stopped working. And at a certain point, they're like, hey, do you mind just sending the laptop in to us? I've also quit properly. I want to make that clear, where I have given it 2 weeks and committed to the 2 weeks. But yeah, the whole gamut, depending on how I felt about the people that I worked for, it could range anywhere from, no, I will absolutely be dedicated to these last 2 weeks, or we both know neither of us wants me here. So I'm just going to go.
What made you want to leave those jobs? Because it sounds to me that, like, in your personal life, you have this great family and you
Mhm,
have, comedy, which you absolutely adore.
mhm,
So why not suck it up a little bit during the day or night in some of these jobs? But you're just saying, nope, I'm not going to do it.
mhm.
I'm walking. That's what I find interesting is that you bored or you were just so mad at somebody? Like, why not just sort of stick around and let it be a little consistent?
Younger me was definitely bored, or like, you may be my manager, but you're making some dumb decisions, and I don't want to be here anymore if you're making dumb decisions. But now
Uh-huh.
it is, I'm looking around me, and we get, if we're lucky, we get 80 to 90. And the last like 20 to 30 of that 80 to 90 is just kind of sitting around. You're, unless you've taken care of your body to the peak, you got till about anywhere between 50 and 70. That's your range of the sunset of your life before it is just you kind of sitting around. That doesn't give a lot of time to do the things I want. And I know it's a little backwards because it's the job that affords you the ability to take the trips to places.
Mm.
Well, I said, well, what if I just don't do the job? And instead of worrying so much about the trips to places, I just focused on my day-to-day life being something that gives me a reason to wake up.
Mm.
Like I want to live a life that I'm enjoying, that I'm a part of, that I still choose. And money will always be tight. No matter how much you make, people are always finding a way to be right at that level of, I don't have enough. I may have some saved, but I don't have enough to do the things I want. Me,
Mhm.
I'm just doing the things I want. And I know I have a limited amount of time before I can't do that anymore. And then maybe I will settle down and become a bagger at Publix and live out the rest of my days having conversations with people who don't want to talk to me. And I think that right there is what I'll do in my sunset years. Is I'm just going to
Mhm.
bag groceries and then talk to people in line about politics for no reason other than that's all I had on my TV well before I came to work today. And they're not going to want to talk to me, especially about politics. But me, I want to make sure I talk to them and only about politics.
Right. So you have a plan, and then that's good.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
that's great. Okay. I've often said that when I get to that age, I'm going to be living in some sort of commune, but with people a fraction
Yes.
of my age.
Yes.
And, I buy them beer or whatever, and then they keep me young because they're so young and, they'll help me with whatever new tech is out that
Yeah,
I.
you could do the blood transfusions that the
Well,
tech
that
billionaires.
too.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Got a
Yes.
whole
Yes.
community of them that are just,
Uh
keeping
huh.
cycle.
That's right. What is your writing process
Hmm.
for your jokes?
I don't have one.
And you
I
don't
hate
write
writing.
every day? Do you write every
No.
day or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
So
I'll sit.
suddenly you wake up at 3 in the morning, you have tons of great jokes and you just write them down?
Nope. I I'm an improviser through and through, and that's
Okay.
what I've been learning about myself. And it's way more difficult than writing them. I'll write like stories, not the whole thing. I'll just write like Midnight the Chicken, or
Okay.
I have a joke book around here somewhere. If it's like within reach, then I can show you. It's just like the titles of each story to remind me of what, or like Oranges and Mustard for Halloween. Like that's another one, and that's enough. Repossessed car, Al Capone gonna get shot. Like I just need enough of the story
Uh-huh.
to spur me into an emotional response to what that brings up about my life. So I don't sit and write every word like a scientist, because there are comedians who do that, but I found it doesn't work for me because I don't have the patience and I'm not going to memorize it. I'm just
Mm.
not. I'm
Mhm.
going to tell the story based upon the audience in front of me. And if I need to choose a different one, I will. If one pops into my head, I'm going to take it and run with it. So I allow myself the freedom to create on stage in that moment with the audience. So I don't really write as much on paper as much as I write from the stage. So if
Yeah.
I will write my jokes in front of an audience.
Well, that's how life works, though. I mean, think
Hmm.
about everyone else all day, every day. They're not scripting their life, they're
Nope.
reacting to whatever comes their way. So that's why
Hmm.
I think that improv comedy is something that people should really take a moment to embrace because there's so many things that they can learn from it. And I also feel that, like with improv, you're in the moment. Whereas
Hmm.
so many times people are living not in the moment, they're thinking about the future, they're thinking about other things, where improv forces you to focus
Yep.
and
You're only
react.
here. You're
Yeah.
only here. That's all that you have is right here, right now. The
Hmm.
illusion is that you have later on, and the illusion is that what happened behind you matters as much as you think it does. It influences who you are today, and the future is a goal of where you're headed. But neither of those are things that are right now, and all you have is right here, right now. So what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, those are great lessons. So, what is a movie or show that you can watch over and over again?
Lord of the Rings is a movie, and the whole trilogy. I can just watch it over and over again. The
Uh
movie
huh.
and the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman, over and over again. Show, any cartoon. I'll just put a cartoon on. Doesn't matter what. You got Adventure Time. You've
Mm
got. I'll watch the old Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go, the new one, or Gravity Falls. It's only 2 seasons. It's fantastic. You can watch that over and over again.
hmm.
But cartoons are what I'm able to watch repeatedly because each time there's something new about the art. I surprisingly don't watch a lot of scripted comedy shows. So a lot of people are big Office fans and never finished it. I haven't started Parks and Rec, not interested in New Girl. So the ones that normal people are like, this is the show that I watch all the time. Or like my girlfriend will always have New Girl or Gilmore Girls on. It just doesn't get to me the same as watching some cartoon character with a sword run around and fight people. It just,
Mm, yeah,
that's more real to me.
because the absurdity exists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any melt off your face kind of comedies that you can think of? I feel like we're lacking in those,
Oh, yeah.
forms of entertainment. But can you think of any recent?
Yeah, we're lacking those because they don't make money anymore. Like the Hollywood game has changed, and I could spend hours telling you exactly why, and like the laws that changed to get us there, because I've looked into it a lot. But we're missing great comedies. I love Tropic Thunder. I can watch that anytime. That one's fantastic. Blazing Saddles from back in the day. What else? Game Night is a recent one. I think that came out in 2018. That one's very good. Laughed a lot at that one. Nacho
Yeah, I
Libre.
remember Game Night. I totally forgot about that movie. That was
Game
very
Night
good.
is great.
Yeah.
Game Night is surprisingly great.
Mhm.
Pirates, Band of Misfits. It's a stop motion animated movie that's
Okay.
extremely good. A lot of your animated movies are really where you can get some like high quality comedy because they spend so much time in that world creating every element of it from nothing that the comedy ends up being just a little bit better because they've had more time to kind of like cook it and make it a little bit better.
I
So
see.
love me some animated comedies. Like Teen Titans Go to the Movies is a great one.
Okay.
That one's highly underrated.
I mean, do you think that in the future that'll come back? Because I feel like people are starving for that kind of humor, just to laugh so hard your face hurts.
I think it could, but it is so much cheaper for you to make a comedy that you just get a big star and you tell them to improvise and nothing that they do is funny, but you have to take a take anyway. There are people who are going to think this movie is hilarious, and enough of them will buy tickets or stream it for it to make sense financially. But it's been and because we have such a fractured media state, you're not going to get parody movies like you used to, like your Airplane or your Naked Gun, because back then it was like Naked Gun was parodying cop TV shows, which was every single Thursday for everybody, period. So you have a large audience of people who will get these jokes. Now, if you do like a cop drama, you'll get the people who watch Law and Order SVU, like your audience is smaller than what it used to be, where it was, I can parody this movie because everyone has seen Titanic, because Titanic's the only big movie out right now. Now there's like, you throw a marble, you hit a Marvel movie. So parodies are very difficult to make because you have to find the commonality and everyone has to know the setup while you're delivering the punchline in order for it to work. But I think there can be comedies. They're just going to be different than what we think them to be. They won't be your 40-year-old virgins or your like your Judd Apatow type comedies. They're going to be a lot more honest, a lot more real, more independent. And they're not going to be big stars in them because I think people are starting to lose the fascination with big stars in comedies. Like, oh, it's
Why do you
funny
think
that
that
John
is?
Cena's doing that.
I feel like people are losing the fascination with all big stars, but why do you think that is?
Because the people watching it are poor. I don't want to sit here and watch some rich dude complain about he can't make rent in a movie. I can't believe that John Cena can't pay his bills. Come on, you gotta. The man looks like a Greek god. If he's not making money from movies, his cousin Zeus is helping him out.
Yeah. Okay.
So comedy, once again, comedy has to be honest for us to like it. And a lot of times people are like, this is going to be a great comedy because it's a great concept. Well, no, because it's just not honest. Oh, it's hilarious that like there's tension between the dad and the stepdad. That's funny. Yes, as a concept. But then you make the movie and the dad is Kevin Hart and the stepdad is Mark Wahlberg. And it's like, well, I don't believe this right now. it's just not believable, you know?
Yeah. You think about like Ghostbusters. I mean,
Yeah.
none of that was believable, but at the same time, it was believable. And
Yes.
it's still funny now.
Yep. They were completely honest portrayals as well. Like they might have been trying to be funny, but a
Hmm.
lot of the time it feels effortless. Like they have convinced us that they're not trying to be funny.
Mm.
I'm not going in and they're like, oh, he really tried to make that joke work. I'm like, oh, that was pretty funny.
Uh-huh. When I look at those characters, though, um, no one had really good teeth. And I
Yeah.
look at like
Yep.
the older movies and everyone had charisma because they had maybe some jacked up skin or their teeth are a little mangled or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
now a lot of these stars, they all kind of look the same. Like even though their skin tone might be different, like their noses are kind of the same, or they've had the eyes done, the teeth done, and it just takes away, I think, from that charisma. Maybe the authenticity, perhaps, when you're going
Yes.
back to being
Yes.
honest, like this is a real person and I can laugh with them because that is a real person, not someone with chiclet teeth and
Mhm.
Botox in their face and they're missing some facial expressions right now because their face is frozen.
And they've been so far removed from what it's like to live in everyday life, to wake up, do the grind, figure out like, okay, it's August. I just paid for July's rent. I
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily know what I'm going to do in August yet. Like
Yeah.
there's not the same struggles as what majority of people are going through of trying to make ends meet, because they haven't had to worry about making ends meet for so long.
Nate, do you think it's social media? There's that expression, familiarity breeds contempt. And is it possible that we've gotten a little too close to some of these movie stars? We know a little bit too much about their
Mm.
lives and their homes. And perhaps that's feeding into what you're talking about, where we can't relate to them. Because old school Hollywood glamour, they were extremely glamorous and people knew they lived in mansions, but they weren't seeing it all the time. I don't think it was
Yep.
constantly being rubbed in your face. So perhaps that's part of it.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand that that's part of it. I think Kevin Hart used to be very funny, and he's the one that I always harp on because he's made it where he wanted to be. He's
Yeah.
insanely wealthy, and he's doing all these projects and connected to so many things. So anytime he does stand up, it's just hard for me to care because I'm like, why? You don't need to do this. Like you're not. I don't know. I don't find it that funny because it seems like you're trying. It seems like at this point you have a PR team and you're trying to hit demographics instead of
Mm,
make really funny jokes.
yeah.
I don't think it's that way with every comedian, but I know Kevin Hart is trying to be like a multifaceted everywhere, so he's got to pay attention to how it affects the brands
Yeah.
and the deals and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some things are written in the contract, right? And
Oh, absolutely.
we'll never know. Okay.
Yep.
Do you have any favorite comedians, dead or alive?
Definitely George Carlin, Richard Pryor, love some Steve Martin. He's
Mhm.
alive. Dave Chappelle, Taylor Tomlinson. She's a new one that I really
Yeah, she's
enjoy.
good. Her quarter
Gosh, she's
midlife
so good.
crisis. Yeah.
Yep, so
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
Let's see, Akash Singh. He's got some really funny bits that I like. Oh, Mike Birbiglia. Love me some storytelling, Mike Birbiglia.
Yeah, and Taylor's dating Sam. Heck, is
Morrill.
yeah, he's great, don't you think?
Yes. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, he's very, very good, and he puts his specials out for free. They're
He
just,
was
you just
doing them from rooftops during
yep,
COVID, just
yep,
rooftops all around New York. I know a lot of those comedians were doing like drive-in movie theaters
yeah,
and what have
or
you to.
Zoom calls. So then
Mhm.
you'd join the Zoom, but you'd turn your volume down so they could still hear the laughter in between jokes from all like 300 people in a massive Zoom call.
Oh, that's
So you
nice. It's
you buy a
hard to
ticket for a virtual comedy club.
it's hard to tell a joke and just have it go into the abyss with
Yep.
no feedback at all. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's time for the pet peeve segment. Everyone has those little things that annoy them, but we rarely mention them when we get to know someone. What are your pet peeves?
Get out the left lane.
Okay.
Get out the left lane. Don't cruise in the left lane. You are all that is wrong with the world. Every single bad thing in this world is because you think you're supposed to cruise in the left lane.
And I think that's also something that could apply to life, right? Get out of the
Mhm.
left lane,
Yep. Let other
right?
people pass. It's okay
Yeah.
if they pass. It has no effect to you. They just might be going faster. That's cool. Do your own thing in the middle or the right lane. Just
Uh-huh.
not the left one.
Or
Don't do it there.
don't block progress.
Yes. Yes, I like that. It is way deeper than what my pet peeve originally was. Just get
Right,
out the
right.
way.
You're just like you're upset about people
Yes,
blocking progress. Yeah.
absolutely.
Are there any other pet peeves?
You don't need to ghost people. You can simply just say, "Hey, this is why I'm probably not going to see you again," and move on with it. You're never going to see him again. Why does it matter? Don't ghost him. That's rude. Causes overthinking, and it's mean. It is downright mean.
What about the employer that you ghosted?
Let's not talk about that. If we can just move to the next one. I'm talking
Okay.
about other people, not me.
Are
Okay.
there any other pet peeves?
Do not touch me when I'm sleeping. If I've come over to your house because you've invited me to a party and
Uh-huh.
it's a party that starts past 8:30 or 9, I'm
Uh-huh.
going to sleep on your couch, right? If I
Okay.
wake up and you've drawn on my face or decided to play with me in any way to be like, "Hey guys, look how funny this is," I
Uh-huh.
will wake up and I will pull down one of your bookcases. Okay?
Oh, all right. So you're
Do
very
not.
angry about that. Do not touch you
Don't
while you're
no, if I'm
sleeping.
sleeping, let me
Hmm.
sleep. It is a
Okay.
sacred space. If anyone's sleeping, you don't touch them.
Years ago, when I was at Florida State University, we threw a house party and a guy passed out on the
Mhm.
floor, and we got out tape and outlined his whole body. So it looked like the
Yeah,
police outline. That
yeah.
tape stayed there for the rest of
Mhm.
the year. Someone walk in like, what happened here? We're like, oh, this guy Brad, he fell asleep right there.
It sounds like you didn't touch Brad.
No, we just
Completely okay. I'm
outlined.
okay
We
with it.
outlined Brad. Yeah.
I'm not pet peeved about it at all. That's a good sleepy prank right there. That's a good one.
What were you afraid of as a child? And what are you afraid of now?
There's two things that I was afraid of as a child and still afraid of now.
Hmm.
The first, it's normal, the dark. It's just like you don't know what's on the other side.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to tell. Your senses are diminished. It's a lack of control. Afraid of the dark as a kid. Less afraid of it now, but still, like if it's dark, I'm gonna let someone else go first. I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna. I don't need to be the one. The second thing, animatronic dinosaurs.
You're afraid of those now?
Yes, I am.
Are you talking like the movies? Are you afraid of the movies that are out now?
I am horrified of the dinosaur ride at Disney.
Okay.
I can't go to Dinosaur World and walk through the museum because the last two exhibits at the museum are animatronic dinosaurs.
Uh-huh.
I went to the Jurassic Park exhibit in Chicago where they had a bunch of animatronic dinosaurs, and I was horrified, sweating profusely the whole time. They're all fake. They're 100% fake. There's no way they could be real. But there's one chance that some mad scientist figured out how to recreate them, and the perfect place to put a recreated dinosaur would be amongst its own kind, and the closest you can get is inside of an animatronic dinosaur ride attraction. And that's just I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave that alone. Like on the dinosaur ride, you're riding along and there's that Carnotaur that comes at you and opens its mouth. I'm good.
That's
We don't
really
even need
upsetting.
that. We don't even need that there. So the whole ride for dinosaur, I'm just tucked. Like I'll still ride it because look at me. I'm an adult. I'm not afraid.
Uh-huh.
I'll
You're
still
tough.
ride it.
You're tough.
But
Uh-huh.
I'm tucked. I'm tucked. I'm not moving. I'm tucked.
Are there any other things that you're afraid of?
As an adult, I'm afraid of being a failure. Not failing, but
Mhm.
being a failure.
What would
And
be a
that
failure for you?
quitting, or I've tried this thing so many times that it just hasn't worked no matter how many times I've tried it. And that
Mhm.
would be disheartening. It's like no matter how many times I've tried to do this thing, it just didn't work. I don't think I'd be okay with that.
But
So I'm
Nate,
very
it
afraid
sounds
of it.
like you don't give up, though. I mean, we talked earlier about jokes that perhaps other people don't find funny, and you just keep working on it until you break it down to that one component that needs to be adjusted. At what point do you give up and say, I failed?
Mhm.
Or knowing that you wouldn't want to say that, is that why you just keep going?
It's definitely the latter, knowing I don't want to say that, so I keep going. But as I'm getting older, I'm realizing like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm just not going to be able to do. And I got to be okay with it. But I'm still afraid of that failure. Not failing, but like failure. Just doesn't work, no matter how hard you try.
I think it's interesting that you're saying that because you're someone who embraces failure and you teach other people to not be afraid of failing, and yet it's a fear still.
Yep. I think it's the totality of it is my biggest fear. Yeah, the totality of it.
Is it the totality or the finality of it that like here's like a little period, like failure, period, and there's nothing advancing beyond that?
It's the period. It's the
It's the
period. For
period. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Makes more
Yeah.
sense. Rounding this out on a positive note, one of the secrets to living a happy and interesting life is always having something to look forward to. What are you looking forward to in the future?
I'm always looking forward to getting on stage. I got a bunch of shows coming up, and we've increased the frequency. So I love getting up and hopping on stage. And there's a couple of There's Hogwarts Legacy coming out for PlayStation 5 and PC next year, February of next year, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not into that at all. So
yeah, trust me, it's a thing. It'll suck you in.
Is it a thing?
Get started, you can't stop.
And now it's time for the very interesting game show. This isn't trivia. Throw accuracy out the window and give me your most ridiculous and creative answers instead. And let's see if you can come up with the most interesting answer. Are you ready? A coin in medieval England cost the same as a goat, and it was called a groat. What would you call a coin today that you could buy a hamburger, a new phone, car, or perhaps something you make up?
The way this word sounds, if you wanted to buy a tree, you're going to need to have 6 treacles. Just a treacle. And it's TREEKLE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So no CLE there. I see.
No, CLE is an abomination.
Oh,
and,
okay. All right.
You need 6 treacles for 1 tree.
For 1 tree. Okay.
Yes.
I like the currency conversion there as well.
It's 4 treacles in the UK.
Oh, okay. And are there different trees that might actually be more or less?
There are, but that's the black treacle market.
It's not the cherry blossom market. I know those are super special.
Those are they're on reserve for the president. He actually has them back ordered. It's a DC thing.
I like it a lot. I wonder if people will buy more trees now that they have like a currency to actually think about it.
I believe so. I think people have always wanted to buy trees, but I think businesses buy trees more than people do.
Yeah. So this will facilitate perhaps more tree planting.
A very creative tree solution to the big tree problem.
I see.
It's a big tree. Big tree controls all the trees.
Big tree does. Yes. Yeah.
Look, I know you said no politics, but I had to bring up big tree once. Okay. It's the thing.
Yeah. And so their slogan is wood is good.
Oh man, you are barking up the wrong tree with that slogan.
I saw what you did there and I think it's sappy.
You started it.
Well, let me log on to see the next question. Okay. A company has figured out how to make I almost said tree shirts because we were just talking about trees. Okay. So a company has figured out how to make t-shirts out of old milk. How could other food waste be turned into valuable or useful products?
I've thought about this a lot.
Okay.
You create chairs in restaurants that have jars underneath them or like containers. So when people sit down and they eat, they then fart into said jar. They can then detach the jar from their chair, attach it to their vehicle, and that is the fuel source for a vehicle. So but now
only in restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not often that you're just farting randomly, I hope.
Nate, I think the average person farts like 26 times a day or something like that.
I am very below average. Or I just can't tell I'm farting. I don't know which one is the right answer there.
Well, you are getting older, Nate.
I am. I was like, what? Did someone leave a window open? What is blowing?
I'm just thinking, like, for your business idea here, that we should be making these collection points throughout the day and just not only at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. No, I think there should be more collection points, but for our initial offering, the one that we go before Shark Tank with, it's just restaurants because that's an easy place to kind of get them out. But the other thing that I just realized is we also have to redesign vehicles as well to not run off of natural gas. They have to run off of natural gas.
Yeah. When I was 12 years old, I had all of these pens on my jeans jacket, and my very favorite pen was conserve energy, fart in a jar. Yeah, so we've gone full circle here.
You're very welcome, 12-year-old you. I think we could probably advance to the point where people just have jars attached to them, and when it reaches critical mass, you just replace the jar.
So how do we attach the jar to everyone's derriere?
Either stretchy knees or stretchy arms is what I'm thinking.
Does it screw on? That's what's why I'm saying, because they're an apparatus. I'm trying to figure that part out. Harley Davidson and Jeep owners often wave when they pass another driver on the road. What other groups should have an established form of salutation when encountering each other in public, and what should their greeting be?
Okay, so this one is for, I think, a group of growing people, but it should be Broncos. I don't know if Bronco owners have a greeting, but I know there's a lot of people who really are dedicated to Broncos. And it really should be the dance by Genuine of Pony. All of them, that is how they greet each other. They stop their vehicle, get out, and dance to Pony by Genuine, and then the whole song. You can't skip it unless you're not a real Bronco fan. And then they move on with their day.
I love it.
Owners of DeLoreans.
Okay.
And their greeting should be when they see each other, they always have just a little bit of gas, like gasoline in their pocket. And they stand with their legs apart. They pour a line between their legs and in front of the legs in front of them, and then strike a match, light it on fire, and then stare at it as it lights up in front of them, just like that.
Back to the Future. Yes.
Extremely. It's 100% just a Back to the Future reference. Yep.
All right. Yeah, there's not a lot of DeLoreans cruising around, so
it's very good because that seems like a fire hazard.
Yes, it does. It's like, oh shit, here comes the DeLorean driver.
But they have an electric DeLorean that'll be hitting the market soon that I think will increase the amount of DeLorean drivers, and that car actually looks really sleek. I just don't know if the gasoline will apply to electric DeLorean drivers. That's
right. All right. Over 5 billion pizzas are sold around the world each year. Create a ridiculous consumer warning for the outside of a pizza box.
Caution, this is a box. That's just so you know, this right here that you're holding, this is a box. Be careful. Some people may be allergic to boxes.
Do not eat this box.
Yes, please don't eat the box. This is a box. This is not the pizza. Open me, and inside is the pizza. Like, caution, this is just a box.
Not edible. Okay. No. The next question. Astronauts left 96 bags of urine, feces, and vomit on the moon. They left 2 golf balls as well. What should they leave there next time they visit?
Obvious answer is golf clubs, but that's not my final answer. My final answer is a DJ table with like the whole lights and everything and a bunch of headphones so that people can put the headphones on and listen to a silent rave while on the moon, like a moon rave. So that because, you know, sound doesn't travel in space. So even if you turn the speakers on, no one's hearing it. And because then we can look up and see it from Earth, and all the people who are like, the moon landing wasn't real can be like, oh, but that's real. That looks lit.
Check out that rave. I love it. Now, this next one, people tend to struggle with. So let's see what you can come up with. The letter J is the only alphabet letter not on the periodic table. What should J stand for?
Jorts. That was an immediate thought, is jorts, and it is for the amount of power that it gives to all of the awkward theater kids growing up to wear a pair of jorts, and what you can do performance-wise in those jorts is quite astonishing. It's probably more powerful than uranium, so it's got to have a higher periodic table number.
Yeah, which is very popular in Florida.
I think jorts is it's almost a disrespectful shortening of both the word and the pants.
Yeah. All right. So the periodic table has jorts on there.
Yes.
I love it. All right. And for the last question of the day, which is asked on every episode, what should have been invented by now?
Good sleep. Like just a good night's sleep. You got tons of crazy different beds and tons of amazing medications you can take and machines for sleep apnea. But I still don't think anyone has invented a way of getting good sleep. Exact amount you need, the temperature you need it. Like, no one has invented the thing that makes you sleep perfectly.
Yeah. I got a pillow the other day that's supposed to hold my head so I don't turn and sleep on my side. And I love sleeping on my side, but apparently that causes wrinkles. So now I sleep like a vampire because I'm not moving my head, but I think that's going to flatten out my butt, actually. Kind of like a baby that gets the flat head because they're just sleeping a certain way. So I know this is not good. I want to sleep in some sort of jello. That's what I want to sleep in. So like nothing gets pushed. I don't get face wrinkles. I don't get like a flattened butt out of this. My back is still loose when I wake up. Nothing.
You just gotta carve out the space where your butt normally is, so it can rest in deeper.
It does. Yes.
You can like carve out more space than you need, and then can expand into the space.
Oh, so all of this time, people have been getting butt implants, and they really
Mhm.
just needed to carve a space in the bed so
Yep.
that the butts could mold, or they could sleep on their face, right, on their
Yep.
stomach. They could grow boobs that way if they wanted
True.
to. Yeah.
Yep.
What about the muscles though? And I
That's a
think
good
about
question.
like Alien, and they would sleep in that sort of goop,
Yeah.
right?
That goop.
Was
Oh,
it
I would.
Alien that they slept in the goop, or was that the
Yeah.
Matrix where they slept in the goop?
You notice not a lot of people wake up both figuratively and literally because the sleep is just so good. And it's either the goop that they're in or the connection they have.
Uh-huh.
One of those two are what we're missing to have perfect sleep.
Do you have any last words of advice to the listeners on how they can incorporate more humor in their personal and professional lives?
Be honest with yourself and those around you. It doesn't necessarily have to be truthful, but honest comes from a place of feeling and truth comes from a place of logic. So
Yeah,
be honest, and that'll be the best way for you to get to the best humor.
I love it. Well, Nate, how can people get in touch with you?
I'm all over the social medias as Nate Fleming, usually with two G's at the end on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. And those would be the best ways. Just DM me. Worked out for my girlfriend. So
That's right. Well, and that's how we became friends. I sent you a
yeah.
message, and that's how we met as well. All right. Well, folks, until next time, be interesting.